Hey guys, Andy here. So Google's original Pixel Buds were released over 2 years ago, I think now. I was a bit late to the party with them. I waited till they were on offer on the Google store, £50 off. And I seem to remember I thought they were okay. I mean, they weren't truly wireless, which was a bit of a disappointment. They still had the cord linking between them. But Google's latest version have just been released in the UK, and here they are. So we're going to take a look at them today. Well, I'm going to unbox them today. I'll use them for a week or so and I'll let you know my thoughts. So let's start off talking about the design. I really like the design actually. It's kind of like a squashed egg, the case, and it's got a similar sort of eggshell. I think someone else in a review did comment on that. It's got a kind of an eggshell feeling to it as well. They are actually very small and I think very comfortable. It was definitely Mr. Mobile that said he thought they weren't comfortable. It really surprised me because they're probably the most comfortable in-ear headphones that I've used. I sometimes feel they almost feel like they push too deeply into my ear. So when I put them in, you're supposed to twist them around. I learned this halfway in using them, but you have to twist them around into the ear, and actually the wing sort of sits in the back of your ear. But I think they're really comfortable. It is a nice case design. Not only do they go in and out of your ear very easily, but they go in and out of the case very easily, which is always a plus. Some of them, well, some totally wireless earbuds, they're quite hard to pull them out. You have to kind of almost wedge them out. These, he says, and then misses them, but I can tell you they're very easily in and out, and there's a slight magnetism that draws them back in. So I like this version, that the controls work on both earbuds. It doesn't matter which one you tap to start or stop, or double tap to skip forward, or triple tap to go backwards, or hold to activate Google Assistant or read notifications. You can do that on either bud. There are the usual touch control issues in that sometimes, like just now, I was trying to double tap to skip forward, and I think I was maybe missing with the first tap and then readjusting getting the second one. I just kept pausing my podcast, and the amount of times I did that, I just started back up again. When I found the right spot and I was double tapping, no problems at all. But you do have that whole kind of trying to locate the correct point, or sometimes just accidentally catching the point. It also feels like sometimes, and maybe this is part of the problem, it sometimes feels like you have to wake them before they actually work. So I'll tap once to pause them, it'll make some kind of noise, I'm not sure what, but I'll tap again and it actually will pause. So that's a little bit weird. Voice controls work quite well with the usual OKG command, OKG skip forward 2 minutes, OKG skip to next track, all that kind of stuff work really well. Even when I'm cycling, although not so well as I pick speed up and the wind noise probably interferes. And finally, they auto pause when you remove one, so one of the three sensors on the bud there is to tell if it's in my ear or not. If you look at the software, it's pretty basic to be fair. There is a separate app that they say you don't need to install if you're on a Pixel device, so I think this is basically just taking me into the settings. So if I open it up, we should hopefully see the battery level of each earbud and the battery level of the case. Touch controls here, look. Which work quite well. I actually was getting the hang of, so you'll hear a notification noise when your phone receives a notification. You hold one of the buds, you let go, and it reads out whatever your notifications were. And you get the option, I think, when it's like a text message or a WhatsApp, I think you get the option to reply. I can't remember. I'm fairly sure you do. That all works very well. Adaptive sound, so that's where I think it just changes your sound to the surroundings. I think seems to work quite well. In-ear detection worked very well. If I took them out when listening to a podcast or music, it would stop. I'll put it back in, it would carry on again. You can check your firmware's up to date, things like that. Manage notifications, and then we've got HD audio, phone calls, media, contact sharing, all selected on the bottom. That's pretty much it. It's a little sparse in some ways for the software, so having just had a bit of a play with the Jabra 75Ts, there's a lot more software options offered by Jabra. And things like pass-through, I'd really like if they had pass-through, so you'd be listening to music, let's say I'm cycling along, listen to music, and I pull up next to somebody at the lights and they start talking to me. If I could, I mean, I don't know what it would be because triple tap does something different, but tap hold maybe and let go, I don't know. But then what in effect happens is you've got microphones in the earbuds, obviously for phone calls and things, that hears your outside world and actually passes it through and almost amplifies it for you to hear what the person is saying, because although they're not noise cancelling, they obviously are going to shut out a certain amount of noise. So I'd love pass-through to be an option. You would think that's something they could add with a software update, but I don't think the last ones did it, so I guess Google just think it's not particularly an important option. I would really like to see it. So yeah, the software is a little bit basic, but at the same time it's kind of functional enough, I suppose. So if we move on to the performance, I think they sound really good. I think they sound really clean. I'm fairly sure the sound has changed over the time, and there is an adaptive mode, I think, which I'll talk about in the software. It just feels like there's more bass. From when I started, they sounded a little bit tinny, and now I feel like there's a bit more bass to them. There is no noise cancelling, but they do a good job, I feel, of getting the right mix. So I've not been surprised by any cars sneaking up on me when I've been cycling. I can generally hear the traffic, but at the same time, it doesn't interfere with what I'm listening to. So when I'm cycling, often wind noise is a bit of an issue. If I'm listening to a podcast, as I get faster, there's more wind noise and I can't hear the podcast. But actually, I went up to, I think I was doing about 36 miles an hour just now, and I could still hear the podcast. I mean, a lot of it's down to what volume the podcast is, how loud they record, because I have been up to 40 miles an hour and I definitely couldn't hear what was going on. But again, that might have been a slightly quieter podcast. There is good range on them, so I wander around the flat no problem, whereas other Bluetooth devices sometimes struggle going through the thick walls or the massive big fridge, and these have generally been good. But when I've been connected to the Pixel 4, when I've connected to cheaper devices, so I've reviewed a cheap Umidigi and a cheap tablet, that struggles a bit as I moved around the flat, but otherwise generally the range has been very good. If I move on to battery life, it's probably my only concern. I went for a 2-hour ride and one of the buds was at about 31%, the other bud was at about 50%, which isn't great. Right now I've been riding for about an hour and they're at 90 and 70, so that's okay, that's acceptable. I think it depends if I'm listening to music or if I'm on a phone call as well, so I think phone calls take more battery. They claim 5 hours. To be fair, so far today I might get 5 hours if I'm just listening to music. At the same time, when they've been quite low, down at sort of 20-30%, they charge up to full in the case in less than an hour. I think even 40 minutes they were about full on the one time. And charging from very low to full on the case twice had the case at about 60%, so 20% each time, so that should get 5 charges, so you should get at least 20 hours life hopefully from the case. The case itself charges with USB Type-C, and it also has Qi charging for compatible charge pads, which is quite nice. So the conclusion is, I suppose, that they are very good. Are they £179 worth of good? I guess that's only you that can decide that. When you consider what you can get for £40 in the totally wireless earbud range these days, there's some pretty good earphones for £40. Do you really want to spend 4.5 times that for the Pixel Buds? They are slightly better featured. I think the build quality and the design is generally better than most of the cheaper ones. There is a quality feel to the products generally. they do sound great, I think. I mean, I'm not an audiophile, I should make that very clear, so someone else might listen and be able to tell, I don't know, there's different bits aren't as good, but I think they sound fantastic. Good bass, a nice clean treble. For me, one of the biggest things is just how comfortable they are. I think they're really quite small compared to many, and yet they still produce great sound with great bass, and they're so comfortable in my ear. So that is possibly the reason. There's a very good chance they become my main earbuds. I am just starting to use the Jabra Elite 75Ts, Active 75Ts, whatever they are, I forget now. So I'll see what they're like. They're a very similar price range, £190. Maybe I'll do a different video saying which I chose of either of them. But at the moment, the Pixel Buds, I just love them for how sort of their build quality, their design, their comfort, and their sound quality. And their integration into my Pixel device just works really well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments. Do you think they're worth £179? Will you be buying some? Did you have the old ones? Let us know in the comments down below. If you're not already a subscriber, please do subscribe. Check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thank you very much to my Patreons for contributing, because I do buy a lot of the tech like these earbuds myself, so any help is much appreciated. But for now, my name's Andy, and I'll catch you all again soon.